Hey, what's up guys, it's Noah here, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the new season of Pokemon and what it means for competitive Pokemon in general. Today, I'm going to be going over this Series 10 rule set that Pokemon announced for the 1st of August to the 31st of August at the very least. My guess is that they'll bring it back at some point later in 2021 as well, but we'll see. So, the biggest news in the title of this video and the thumbnail and all of that, they are getting rid of Dynamax. You are not allowed to Dynamax any Pokemon under the new rule set. And I'm not 100% sure about this from the Pokemon Company because, well, for a number of reasons. First of all, Zacian was a Pokemon that was built to be a sort of Dynamax counter, right? It was built that it couldn't Dynamax, and its stats reflect that. Its stats are better than any other Pokemon's, but it also has the counterbalance of not being able to Dynamax. Same with Zamazenta, same with Eternatus. So because these Pokemon can't Dynamax, their stats are better. Well, now that no Pokemon are allowed to Dynamax, Zacian and Zamazenta and Eternatus, but Zacian in particular, is going to be ridiculously strong because it's on a level playing field with just boosted stats. These boosted stats are going to make Pokemon like Incineroar and Landorus incredibly important to almost any team you build. Like, these two Pokemon are going to be nearly irremovable. You're going to have one of the two of them or both in order to counter Zacian teams, and teams are going to be almost 1000% built around Zacian because of the ability that Zacian has that boosts its attack on switch-in and its ridiculous current base stat total. Zacian aside, I think the game was pretty balanced with Dynamax involved. You had Pokemon like Colossal that used Dynamax really well, but you also had Pokemon like Incineroar and Rillaboom and Urshifu that didn't use Dynamax very much, but were still viable Pokemon because of it. I think removing Dynamax is removing a whole section of Pokemon that would otherwise be viable. For instance, I don't think Colossal is going to see much play now outside of Dynamax because when you hit it with an Aqua Jet or a Surf, it's now going to take 2/3 of its health as opposed to 1/3 or 1/4. I think other Pokemon like Regirock was a very, very viable Dynamax option, isn't going to be as good. Venusaur isn't going to be as good because it's now just a one-trick pony with Sleep Powder. I think a lot of Pokemon that were viable because of Dynamax aren't going to be as viable in the current series. It's going to be very different. I feel like it's going to be very centralized around Zacian, around these legendary Pokemon that are allowed, and it's just going to be a very messy metagame. Let's go ahead and read the rule set. I've talked a little bit about what the game will look like, but basically the rules are Dynamaxing Pokemon's not allowed. You are allowed to bring 4 Pokemon from a team of 6 to each battle, pretty standard for doubles, and you're allowed to have 1 legendary per team. So it's very similar to Series 8 in that you're allowed to have 1 legendary. However, no Pokemon can Dynamax now, which makes Zacian almost the default choice. If you have a really good team that doesn't need Dynamax and you need a legendary Pokemon, just slap Zacian on it. It's going to be ridiculously strong, and that's why I started talking out about Zacian immediately, because it's going to be the main focus of the metagame just based on how the metagame is structured. Pokemon like Solgaleo and Necrozma Duskmane, is that right? Duskmane. Pokemon like those and Pokemon like Lugia that really use Dynamax with weakness policy, Pokemon like Dialga and Palkia that used it with Life Orb and Assault Vest aren't going to be as good. They're still going to be viable, don't get me wrong. But with Zacian running around with, you can run Choice Band, you can run the Rusted Sword and just boost its stats, it's going to be ridiculously strong. And you're going to need Pokemon with Intimidate or Burns to get around Zacian just rolling your team. For the future of Pokemon, I think this is a particularly interesting move from the Pokemon Company, especially with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming out later this year. I think the Pokemon Company might be trying to move away from Dynamax as they head into a sort of new series of Pokemon. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl looks almost like a skin-for-skin remake of the original games. It may not be, and we have yet to see that. But if it is, then obviously Dynamax won't be in it, and this is a move from the Pokemon Company in that direction. But if it's not a skin-for-skin remake, then the Diamond and Pearl games could have Dynamax, and this is just a little twist in the series from the Pokemon Company, both of which I would be okay with. I think either way, like, I understand from their perspective if they want to try to veer away from Dynamax going into the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl games. I also understand that they just want to mix up the metagame a little bit, because Pokemon does get stale and boring after a certain amount of time. You know, you can only do so much in each metagame before it gets a little stale. However, I think this mix-up is not going to be a particularly fun metagame. It's going to be extremely centralized, like I said, around Zacian, maybe even around Zamazenta and Eternatus. It's going to be very difficult to play around, to build creative teams that are centered around a Pokemon other than Zacian. It's going to be very, very difficult to build around other Pokemon. But I'm sure we'll still see some good creativity from other creators and Pokemon team builders and stuff like that, but it's just going to be much more difficult and much harder to pilot these teams that don't have these broken Pokemon like Zacian and their counters Incineroar and Landorus, who are, let me just get this straight, in the metagames you could Dynamax, Zacian was already particularly powerful, and Landorus and Incineroar are already in the top 10 in usage. Without Dynamax, Zacian's just going to get higher up, and Incineroar and Landorus are just going to be more used because there's no counters to them. I want you to imagine for a second a Zacian plus Defiant or competitive team and how ridiculously strong that's going to be. If you just lead Zacian Zapdos and just hit stuff with Close Combat or Brave Bird, if you get hit with a first turn Intimidate by Incineroar or Landorus, you're going to be golden. And you can just switch Zacian out for later. It's going to be a very difficult metagame to play around, and I'm not 100% sure it's healthy for Pokemon as a competitive scene. However, from the casual side, I do understand where the Pokemon Company is coming from, trying to veer more towards the Diamond and Pearl games and their remakes, because those games didn't have Dynamax, and if the remakes are anything like the originals, they probably won't have Dynamax either. I get that. I'm just not a huge fan of the competitive rule set for this, but I think it's going to be interesting. And I do think some Pokemon have some viability, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's just going to be Zacian. I think Calyrex is going to be really good with Choice Specs. I think stuff like Eternatus is going to be really good with like Assault Vest or maybe a Life Orb or a Choice Specs as well. Maybe Scarf. Scarf Spectrier is going to be really good with Will-O-Wisp and Shadow Ball to hit both, you know, your Calyrex Shadows and your Zacians. I think there's a lot of different options for people to build with. Don't get me wrong, I just feel like it's going to be very central in the fact that in team building, you are going to have to account for Zacian, or you will lose probably a third of your games. And I think that's too restrictive in team building to have a really healthy metagame. And I think that's why when you go on to singles formats like OU and UU on Smogon, on Pokemon Showdown, they have balanced tier shifts so that if a Pokemon gets too used or too busted in a certain tier, they get moved up or they get moved down if they're not being used enough. And I think that kind of dynamic shift helps the singles tiers a lot, whereas in this, Pokemon's just like, these are the rules, and they don't shift it. And I think Zacian is just going to become one of those Pokemon that is just so restrictive in team building that it's going to limit people's creativity and how they build teams. That's pretty much my quick spiel. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the opinion, and I might play some Series 10. It looks fun, don't get me wrong. It looks like it could be very entertaining and very enjoyable. And I will build some teams, hopefully some cool teams, and hopefully win with them on the Switch. I do want to get back up to Master World here soon and play some more competitive Pokemon, but it's been a while. So if you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this little informative video. It's a bit shorter than my normal ones, but I still hope you enjoyed nonetheless. And until next time, I will see you guys. Peace.